Okay, one more quick speaker here right before lunch. So we're very lucky today to have a fellow wheat grower with us, and he just happens to be the director of the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Dr. Tim Boring. He will provide us an update with the department, which includes much of their work on looking out for agriculture and partnering to keep growers and the industry moving forward to stay competitive. So, Dr. Boring, here you go.
Well, thank you. Nice to have a few minutes to come up here. I don't know if lucky is the right word because now I'm standing directly between all of you and lunch. But it's always, frankly, helpful for me to come up and share a little bit about what we're doing in the department, kind of the mindset we're approaching issues, and most importantly, like hear from all of you, whether it's the back of the lunch line or whatever, about things we need to be doing, big and small, like big positioning issues, little issues you might be having with state government or otherwise that we can kind of help facilitate here. So I'll just start by saying that every day kind of the work that, the focus in which we're viewing our work is largely around how does agriculture show up and address these big issues we keep having as a state. Knowing there's a lot of synergy between the big issues as a state and what we're seeing in communities, what we're seeing in personal households. It costs too much to do pretty much everything today. Whether that's buy crop inputs or put groceries on a table or make investments in the community around like infrastructure or attracting businesses in. We're seeing people move out of Michigan, which is a reflection of the fact that there's decreased economic opportunities, right? And the path forward of how people are making decisions around like how they're going to build families and make investments over a long term. Livability of communities, right? The cultural vibrancy of places. Like there's some big issues that we have as a state here that I think it's important for us to be framing a lot of our work within and having agriculture seen as a solution to a lot of these things. There are a few better pathways to address these rural issues we have than making investments in agriculture, of whether it's bringing in economic development activities so that we're expanding our processing infrastructure. It's around facilitating tax dollar like federal tax dollar investments into infrastructure. It's like investments in schools, like early childhood education, these kinds of things. We need agriculture to be seen as pathways to address these kinds of issues. And when we can do that, and so when we're in congressional offices out in DC or in Lansing or talking to other stakeholder groups around like how we expand economic development in Michigan, if we can get those groups to see us as value aligned and pathways to advance the priorities they all have, it gives us additional resources and capacity then to be working on these more specific issues in agriculture. And a lot of that's the long-term positioning Michigan agriculture for success, knowing that the things that make us unique and the things that historically have made Michigan really competitive are going to become more and more important into the future. Like we have really important capacity for diverse production here in Michigan in a way that other places of the country simply don't. We have access to water. We have this inherent processing infrastructure. We have a lot of people that live here in the state that increasingly care about how and where their food is grown. So you look at the next 20, 30, 40 years of these trends that are going on across the country, like Michigan's in a really, really strong position to capitalize on these things if we're making smart and thoughtful investments and kind of moves today. So like that's kind of this broad crux by which we're looking at all of this. Like the thumb of Michigan is as well suited as any place. Like, I mean, we've got a really strong, diverse agricultural industry here in a way that just simply other places of the country do not have. That agriculture isn't as strong because we have these things. But that means we're working on these immediate issues we have in front of ourselves on a daily basis, knowing that if we don't kind of take care of these things in front of us today, that all the long-term planning is great, but we've got some, frankly, real significant challenges with profitability here in front of us. And as Jeff pointed out, that I grow wheat, so I know firsthand the difficulty of penciling out how wheat works into a rotation a lot of times right now. We're working on things around within our lane here as a state, around input affordability, market access, so whether it's internal domestic markets here, around the importance of these international markets, of why folks should care about how we're addressing international trade on a federal level. Let me give you a couple examples of programs that we're continuing to build out here in the state. We're a couple years into a regenerative ag program whose broad mission is figuring out how we can lower input costs, increase the value of the farmers are receiving for the products they grow. If we are spending more time on a per acre basis of adding more value into the crops, of whether it's improving soil health, it's reducing environmental impacts that might be associated with production. If the quality of the product that you're growing is of higher quality, you should be getting paid more money for it. So there's a lane there, kind of as the state operating, about putting together those kinds of programs to be figuring out how we're increasing the profitability and value of the crops we're growing. We're a couple years into a farm-to-family program here in Michigan, a specific effort for our department to be involved in food here at the state. Historically, that's been work in Department of Education, Health and Human Services. But again, like we're a state here that grows food in a really unique way, but we don't always tie that into the agricultural discussion in probably the way we should. So for us, that program has been a way for us to be able to talk more about the fact that Michigan beans need to be on more plates. We need to be figuring out how schools and hospitals and institutions are locally procuring more food. It's a pathway to having improved grocery access into communities. It's a pathway for the additional demand of these products. It's a diversification pathway for farms, of whether it's new people getting into agriculture or existing family farms looking to bring another generation back and maybe not necessarily be involved full-time on their operation, but doing something on the farm. And if we can be growing some food and putting that into community through market outlets, like that's a path to transition and succession planning on a lot of farms. So the last one I want to talk about is the fact that last week the governor's recommended budget came out, and included in that was a new program for our development in MDARD we're calling Farm Start. So our department historically has not done a lot of beginning farmer work. There's a lot of resources scattered all over. Extension does a lot, Greenstone, Farm Bureau's long called for a lot of beginning farmer work. There isn't really a centralized hub for a lot of this work that goes on to the state. It's been a need that's been pointed out to us for a while now. So this program does some of that. It's bringing all these resources together, talking about financing, talking about transition and succession planning on different farms, building in some more comprehensive access of how we get new people into agriculture. It's farmers, but it's a path by which we address the ongoing veterinarian shortage we have across Michigan. It's a path to address some of these issues we have of just getting folks working at ag businesses. It's the supporting stuff of ag mechanics, for instance. So this is a new kind of area we're building out for us. We've got a long budgetary negotiation process ahead, but it's been ongoing work we've kind of seen as a need here. So interested, all of you, if you're engaged in this space, if you have thoughts about like kind of what's needed at a state level to build up programming around this, we're certainly all ears for that and interested in addressing those kinds of things. So, Jeff, I promised you 10 minutes. I hope I'm still on time here. Yeah, happy to field any questions.
I can't pick up any newspaper, turn on any TV, or go on any site, but when I say that we're losing thousands of acres farmland weekly to the data centers or solar, how is MDARD attacking that?
So question around ongoing conversion of farmland to data centers, solar. So we continue to advocate and build out some of these farmland preservation resources we've got within our department. But knowing there's a lot of issues that are continuing to go on with folks seeing Michigan as a place to build investments, right? So the crux of a lot of this is perhaps a lack of the full appreciation for the value of farmland. So that's a continued theme that we talk within this. But we're also engaged in like the discussions of Public Service Commission and things like this, knowing there's a line here of how we interface as a state too and talk about decisions of land control, right? I mean, there was an article in the Lansing State Journal yesterday talking about a proposed solar farm kind of down in southeast Ingham County. And some of these questions that come up of quoting the farmer as the farmer's making the decision of how he's going to, make those long-term family investments of what they do with their farmland. And I'm not necessarily going to tell you it's the state's job to tell farmers what they can and cannot do with their farmland either. So ongoing issues here, but I think it kind of calls into question these ongoing, what's been in place for a long time, around the conversion of farmland to housing, energy, other things. Jerry.
Are there any programs within MDARD to help connect overseas customers with those businesses here that are capable of exporting overseas?
Yes. Question whether there's programs within MDARD to do some of this kind of international market development. We specifically have a couple of folks that work in international market development. We've got a pretty robust ag development team, for lack of a better word. It's economic investment. Kevin Kern is based up in this area and does a lot of work kind of building out investments on a stateside basis here, of how it's a lot of kind of the interface between like Michigan Economic Development Corporation, other resources. We also have a couple of people that are specifically doing international work. A lot of that work historically has been tied to and focused like on food processing, like how we're getting individual products that might contain wheat, right, two or three steps down the line here into international markets. It hasn't been as historically focused on that, like the base kind of like commodity export sort of thing like you might think of with black beans. But I think just everything we've going on with international trade is really highlighting the importance of doing some of this work. So it's something that we're continued interest of working to build out of like how do we advocate for exporting Michigan products in a more meaningful way? We like very quietly have big dollar amounts that are exported every year out of Michigan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.